Pulpit's on. Pulpit's good.
Okay. Thank you.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1. It's a little bit loud. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing. There you go. Thank you. All right. Good morning and welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati. I'm Alexander Regal. I'm the developmental minister here at First Church. First Church is a place where you are free to be you. First Church is a place where you are free to be you. So bring your questioning mind and bring your expansive heart. Bring your entire self to this beloved community. Our mission is to welcome all with love, to support learning and spiritual growth, to serve our wider community, and to work for justice, equity, and inclusion. Please make sure to read the announcements and inserts in today's order of service, where you can find important information regarding accommodations and upcoming events. Our flowers this morning in front of the pulpit are given by Mary Mark, and they are dedicated to our hard-working board of directors. Round of applause, please. And our congregational meeting will begin 20 minutes following the service today. The hope is that the service will run a bit short, so take a 20-minute coffee hour so that the AV crew can set up for the congregational meeting and come on back into the sanctuary for what I imagine will be a smooth and quick meeting. All right, so before we continue with the service, let's take a moment and wave to everybody watching from home on YouTube. Let's rise and greet our neighbors or say hello in the chat. And when you hear the singing bowl ring, return to your seats, please. Thank you. So Carol Wolf, would you please come forward and light our chalice this morning? We light our chalice to these words: Come, Come. Enter this beloved community. Let its spirit fill your soul. Let its fellowship bring you comfort. Let yourself rest in sacred time and space. Take refuge here. Grow here. And be challenged here. Enter this beloved community as a homecoming. Our first hymn this morning is number 352, Find a Stillness, found in the gray hymnal. I invite you to turn to it and rise as you are able. On the stage, if you're in the mood to join us up here. Not a requirement, but a request. And I was actually asked last week about our new configuration here because our VIP corner is missing. And some people noticed that. This has just been a 2-week experiment. I wanted to see how it felt with a different configuration. And so we're just trying things out for a while, and I suspect that before too long, the VIP corner will be back, at least most of the time. So you can have a seat on the stage or the step if you'd like.
How's that? So this is a book called Whoever You Are. So, what's your name? And your name? Isla. Amelia? Okay. Kim? Clara? Julia? Sienna? So, and you, good morning. Good morning. Whoever you are, little one, whoever you are, there are little ones just like you all over the world. Their skin may be different from yours, and their homes may be different from yours. Their schools may be different from yours. And their land may be different from yours. Their lives may be different from yours. They may be a farmer, they may be a truck driver, they may be a banker, and their words may be different from yours. Like English and what else? Spanish. What else? What other languages? French. All kinds of languages. But inside their heart is just like yours. Whoever they are, wherever they are, all over the world, their smiles are just like yours. And their laugh and their yawn is just like yours. And their hurts are just like yours, and they cry just like you. Whoever they are, wherever they are, all over the world. Little one, when you're older and grown, you may be different. Your red hair may be redder. And they may be different. Wherever you are, whoever you are, in this big, big, wide world, but remember this. Joys are the same. Love is the same. Sitting and squishing together is the same. Pain is the same. Blood is the same. My blood and your blood. How I breathe and how you breathe, exactly the same. Smiles are the same. Teeth or no teeth. Hearts are just the same. So wherever they are, wherever you are, and wherever we are, all over the world, we're the same. Beloved scoundrels. Thank you.
All right, our young folks can proceed to Sunday school class. So somebody asked me after last week, why are you experimenting with the seats? And this is why I'm experimenting with the seats. I want to be amongst you all. One of my favorite scoundrels. How you doing? Good to see you. See, now you don't know what the first row is, do you? Because I get to move it around, right? So I'm an energetic person, and I feed off the energy of other folks, and it's great to feed off the energy of other folks. So the closer I am to you, the better I feel. So look at the rest of this service as the installation of Mary Tarbell-Green as our Assistant Minister for Pastoral Care. Yes. And how did this come about? Well, Mary was working with the extended ministry group when I arrived here just last August, and we immediately went out and a couple times and had coffee together. And it didn't take me long to realize what a gift we have in Mary Tarbell-Green. And I also learned that she'd been to divinity school, and she's been ordained, and she has a lifelong ministry of love and service. And looking at her competency as a colleague, I said to myself, we need to up-level your perception here at church. And so let's make you the Assistant Minister for Pastoral Care. And the board agreed to do this, and that's how we got to today. And so the rest of the service is in honor of you, and you are well deserving of it. So somebody also said to me, what's a homily? As opposed to a sermon. And I said, well, a homily is a short sermon. And then they said, short by your standards? And I guess there's some truth to that, but today's homily, 5-6 minutes maybe. I'm just going to throw out a couple of thoughts for us to contemplate as we continue with this installation this morning. So far, I've mostly spared you my love of the mystic poets, but I've scattered them in a little bit, and so today I'm going to scatter them in a bit more. And maybe next year, after I become more part of the furniture, I'll hit you harder and heavier with those scoundrels. One of my favorite poems is by Hafez. He's a Sufi mystic poet, and he wrote a poem called My Sweet Crushed Angel. And there's just one line in that poem that I want to share with you, and the line is this: the mind and the body are famous for holding the heart ransom. Now let that one sink in. Next time you're struggling to love, think of that one. The mind and the body are famous for holding the heart ransom. In other words, our thoughts and our desires are often impediments to love. And almost every time I've helped somebody with a personal struggle over the course of my 30-plus years of ministry, I've been able to see this truth revealed in my conversations with them. Often the struggle has to do with their thinking pattern or their desires. And they often don't understand how our thoughts and desires are impediments to expressing the love we want to express, or even receiving the love we want to receive from life. So you could say that a significant part of my ministry over the last 30-plus years has been about helping people learn to love. And I think if nothing's been clearer in my 9 or 10 months with you so far, you've gotten that message from me, haven't you? It's about learning to love. It's about learning to love others, and even harder, ourselves, despite ourselves. And that's part of the challenge of being human. Learning to love others and ourselves despite ourselves. It's part of the challenge of being human. A challenge we too often fail. And we too often fail because, gosh, it's simple. Being human is hard. Being human is hard. So I think the message of Hafez is that life is supposed to be a loving. Life is a loving. Write that mantra on your bathroom mirror, on the inside of your visor in your car, on your refrigerator door. Tattoo it on your arm. Develop some mnemonic device to remind you that life is a loving. Switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about the Buddha. The Buddha said, that which arises within life passes from life. That which arises in life passes from life, including us. Including us. Death is part and parcel of the human condition. And, as a minister, I've been present at the side of dying people for a long, long time. And I've done memorial services, and I have put them in the ground, and I have scattered ashes. And I consider it actually a blessing to have this privilege to be with people at this time of suffering and death, because it taught me at a very early age that life is transient, life is fleeting. Man, did the Buddha nail that one. There have been many poignant moments of my ministry where I have sat with suffering and dying people and talked to them about their experience of dying, usually pretty riddled with existential angst. And I could tell you lots of stories, but that would turn this from a homily into a sermon. which we're not going to do. There's one story in particular that happened early on in my ministry. I was in Massachusetts doing my first ministry in my first congregation. And there was a couple in the congregation, and one of them was dying. And I got to know this couple very, very well over the course of the 2 or 3 years during his illness. And so well that I think it's fair to say we became intimate friends. And not long before the partner died, I was sitting in their living room, and he was in his hospital bed. And I was having conversations with him about the meaning of life when one faces a death like his. It was slow, and it was somewhat agonizing, and it was inevitable. And how hard it is to live through that, and frankly, to die through that. Maybe a week after that conversation, he passed. And what he wanted for his funeral, he wanted me to take his ashes out to the tip of Provincetown, Massachusetts, and spread his ashes in the ocean. And so that's what I did. So when the time came for the memorial, a lot of people gathered at the tip of Provincetown. And I waded out into the water until I was about knee deep. And I opened the urn, and there were his remains. I took his remains out, and I gifted them to the ocean. And all I could think about was that this is what remains of the man with whom I had such a deep, meaningful, contemplative conversation a week ago. And there he was, drifting through my fingers into the waters of the Atlantic, becoming absorbed and carried away into the ocean. That's transience, folks. And as I was doing that, I kept thinking to myself, what really matters? What really matters? And so from that question, I have concluded, not only is life a loving, life is also a letting go. Life is a loving, and life is a letting go. And that, folks, is a homily.
God, it was a homily. That our son made this. This is beautiful. This is our, on this side and this side, you can see it's our chalice. And Alex would drag this old music stand out from the back room. And Barry would sit there and go, oh, God, I hate that music stand. And so Zach has been playing around with this kind of stuff, and he made this for Alex, and it brings in all the colors. So I bring my family. Actually, my family is here, and I'm so grateful. So this morning I was sitting at the computer, and Barry said, are you ready for today? And I said, I don't know. And he said, have you written everything? And I said, well, I'm writing it now. And he said, what? It's today. It's today. So I'm going to do the Cliff Notes version of what I would like to say today. And the reason I'm going to give you Cliff Notes is because I showed up here and you all didn't really know me. And so I want to give you a little story about who I am in terms of what brings me here. And for whatever reason, I woke up with the Girl Scout promise. I was what do you call it? Yes. Yeah, I won the Marion Award for selling the most Girl Scout cookies. Just saying. On my honor, I will try to serve God and my country, to help people at all times, and to live by the Girl Scout law. That's the Girl Scout promise. It goes on, respect myself and others, respect authority, use resources wisely, make the world a better place, and be a sister to every Girl Scout. Amen. So that's what I was born into. I was born into a culture of that. And that is really at my core, is the service of my helping. So to make a long story short, it's the Girl Scouts into an all-girls private school, where I am still close with a good 15 or 20 of the women that I went to St. Ursula with. And fast forward, I worked for American Airlines. I was really blessed to get that job here in Cincinnati, and I got into recovery in Al-Anon and really began to see what the whole family system was about. And so I went to my manager and said, do we have a program? And she pulled out an old Alcoholics Anonymous book and said, I don't know, I think we do. Well, they bought an employee assistance program, so I quickly got into that and became the employee assistance coordinator. And while doing that, I could, but I had to send people to treatment. And because we were the airlines, we could send them anywhere, so I would send them maybe to Hazleton. And those that came back with a light in their eyes, I would say, well, you're going to your meetings, or you're working your steps, but I would see that light and I would think, what is that? I really want that. And so fast forward, this guy, the man who I wouldn't be here today without, my husband, king of patience, tolerance, and never saying no to me, said, I want to move to California to be with my family. And I'm like, no, my family's here, no. So I went kicking and screaming out to California. And I went looking at schools for masters maybe in counseling or alcohol and drugs, and I kept being drawn to seminaries. I have no idea why. I'm sitting in San Anselmo in a Presbyterian seminary doing an interview, thinking this is the craziest thing in the world. And after my third interview at the Sophia Center, which is Holy Names College in Oakland, California, you'd have to get out of your car, walk across campus to go to the interview. You walk through the chapel. And so I'm sitting in the interview and I say to the woman who's interviewing me, do I have to be Catholic to go to this school? You would think with the crosses in the chapel that I would get it, that I was in a Catholic environment. And she said, no. So that was pivotal. That master's program in culture and spirituality was an excavation. It just opened me up like Hanuman. It completely disassembled every thought that I had about who I was, what I believed in. The second piece of that was that it was also a respite, if you will, but a sabbatical program for clergy. So I'm in class with a lot of Catholic nuns and priests, again, getting completely disassembled by what I thought I knew of what clergy was, and listening to their stories, and getting a healing beyond healing. And that program was the new cosmology. It was the universe story. And so it just took me out of Cincinnati, Ohio, and just like this, Brian Swim, the universe story. So I'm in that program, and Barry and I go to the Berkeley, Berkeley summer street festival that goes on all weekend long, and it's Berkeley, California. Everybody's dressed. It's crazy. And I go in and get a little chair massage, and Barry really didn't know what my next step. I didn't even know how I landed in that place to begin with, and now I'm being drawn by a street fair to a seminary. So the seminary offered spiritual direction and ordination. So I took both pamphlets home and I sat in my chair and I cried all day long. I thought, what am I doing? I mean, I didn't move to California to do this. And I remembered in high school when I would have sadness and I would go into the chapel. I went in the chapel a lot. I would sit there and I would think, I want to be a priest. But as you know, that's never going to happen in my lifetime in the Catholic Church. And I certainly didn't want to be a nun, no offense. But she's sitting there saying, no offense taken. And along the way, too, I'm studying with Angeles Arian, the Fourfold Way, who talks about the four-chambered heart. The heart of strength and the heart of courage and, and all the chambers of our heart. So long and short, I enrolled in the Chaplaincy Institute in seminary. And the heart of my story comes from the story that he just told, and that is that in the Chaplaincy Institute, we embedded ourselves in a different tradition each month. So I went to Passover services. I went to the mosque. I went to do ecstatic dancing with Sufi. I did the flower festival, Dali, with the Hindus. And it was, again, another excavation. And part of it is you had to do 200 hours of volunteer services as part of your ministry. So one of my teachers was the manager of spiritual care at Kaiser Permanente in Walnut Creek, and I said, I like him. I'd like to study with him. So I signed up to do 200 hours as a volunteer chaplain at Kaiser. And I'm walking through the campus with my little, every Thursday, my little piece of paper, who am I going to visit? And I think, I hate this. I hate this. This huge campus. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know why I'm doing this. And then the back of my mind, somebody says, Mary, you've got 200 hours. You've got to stick it out. So every Thursday, so it's a Thursday, I'm always in the ICU, and I'm knocking on the door. My name's Mary. I'm a volunteer chaplain. And the door opens, and this woman, older woman, opens the door, and I start my spiel, and she goes, I'm Jewish. And I went, oh, okay, because chaplain's a very Christocentric name. And so I said, well, I am here to wish you an early Shabbat Shalom. And with that, she starts crying. Crying. And back there is somebody who's non-responsive, bushy, like Martin Scorsese, gorgeous guy, non-responsive. And that's Norman. Norman had a stroke. We're here for a wedding. We don't have any connections. I don't know what to do. Well, I had been working with the Bay Area Jewish Healing Center doing a yearly grief and growing retreat with people who had lost someone. I was very embedded in the Bay Area Jewish Healing Center. So I called Eric Weiss, my rabbi friend, hooked him up with this woman. And she calmed down and everything was good. And then she said, come meet Norman. And I said, okay. I'm a volunteer chaplain. I'm not a chaplain. So we go to the bedside, and she leans in. She's on this side, I'm on this, and she takes his hand and goes, Norman, this is Mary. And I said to her, I'm here to wish you an early Shabbat Shalom, which I know that was kind of stealing into the next day, but because it's Friday, Shabbat. So she leans in, takes his hand, and says, she wants to wish you an early Shabbat Shalom. And with that, he opens his eyes and looks at me and goes, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. And I thought, that's it. I don't know what just happened. Whatever it was, I want to be there. I want to be there. So I enrolled in the Alta Bates Summit CPE, Clinical Pastoral Education. I was a chaplain for a year and a half in training. I applied for my very first job at Kaiser in San Francisco and became a hospice chaplain. No expense. The reason I'm saying all this is not to tout myself, but to say to you that in 12-step language, they say suit up and show up. In this Girl Scout promise, it says be of service. In what he just shared in his Thank God homily, it talks about being present. That's all I was doing out in California. I had no idea. And the next thing you know, I'm serving 90 patients in San Francisco as a hospice chaplain, and it's just, again, another gift and gratitude. Moved to San Diego, work for San Diego Hospice, the biggest and the best. They close, I go to Scripps, and I'm called to be a pediatric hospice chaplain. And I think, I love kids, this is going to be fun, having no idea, none. And that became my ministry. To be with children who are primarily nonverbal, at end of life, the parents are going to pull out all the stops. You're not going to do formal things. Anything goes. And so I'm on the floor crawling around with the dog, or I'm in bed with the child. Anything goes, and that's more who I am. You don't stand on ceremony in pediatric chaplaincy. And so I came back to Cincinnati, to Children's Hospital, worked as a contract chaplain. We're looking for a house, and we move into 2141 Riverside Drive. We look at the house first. As soon as the door opens, you can see the river. And I thought, oh my, and I started crying. It's on Riverside, at the bottom of Collins. And then we go upstairs and we're looking around, and there are all these books in the bookcase of First Church of Cincinnati, Unitarian, and I'm thinking, really? And I'd been here a couple times to visit. And then on the landing is a picture of Music Hall. And I thought, oh, for God's sake. It's Ed and Barb Ryder's house. So the symphony was there, First UU was there. And so that's who I am, and excuse me, how I got here. And to end, what I want to do is say thank you to my family. Thank you to my family of origin. Thank you to my husband. Thank you to my 12 steps, which is my spiritual practice. Thank you to my siblings and my co-siblings, Brenda, and my alternate siblings, Lou. Thank you to Ed and Barb Ryder. I thought I'll never be able to pay you back, you know. Thank you to each one of you as I walk through the doors here, because I went to Heritage and St. John's, but I walked through the door here every week and you welcomed me so warmly. So warm, you didn't know who I was. And the culmination of all of this is yesterday we did God's service, Got Ragsdale. We've been through a lot in this church. We really have been through a lot. And to be at his service with all of the players and all of us in honor of God was just extraordinary to see from whence we came and how we can be where we are today. I have nothing but a heart full of gratitude. And that is who I am. And thank you so much. With my favorite prayer. I'm going to save this to the closing. If we could take a deep breath. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
I'm honored to be a part of this service today. We gather today to install Mary Tarbell-Green as the Assistant Minister for Pastoral Care of First Church. And in a spirit of mutual concern, we rededicate ourselves to the values of this religious society and the liberal religious tradition of which it is a part. Mary, when this service of installation ends, you will have been installed as our Assistant Minister for Pastoral Care. We have chosen you for this role because we recognize in you unique concerns, passions, and skills for the caretaking of souls. Given this, we look to you to support Dr. Regal in this most important aspect of ministry. Indeed, if ministry has any meaning, it is found in the caretaking of souls. With these thoughts in mind, do you accept our desire for you to minister to us in this regard as our Assistant Minister for Pastoral Care? By mutual consent between First Church Board, Dr. Regal, and yourself, you are hereby installed as our Assistant Minister for Pastoral Care. We look forward to supporting you and being enriched by your ministry with us.
We ain't done yet. Mary Tarbell-Green, life is a loving. It is part of our calling as ministers to help people learn to love, both themselves and others, despite themselves. In the short 9 months that I've known you, you have made it clear to me that you already know this full well. And Mary Tarbell-Green, life is a letting go. It is part of our calling as ministers to help people to remember to ask themselves the question, what really matters? And in the short 9 months that I've known you, you have made it clear to me that you also know this full well. The ministry of pastoral care that you have done throughout your career calls upon you to be present during moments of suffering and death, which is where life as a loving and letting go most poignantly meet. Such presence is not easy to hold in those moments. It requires a capacity for compassion and a depth of soul that is born from the wisdom and experience gained through the lived reality of one's own life, one's own experience of blessings and struggles. So here's my charge to you. As you minister to the good people of this congregation and its scoundrels, continue to abide in that capacity for compassion and depth of soul that you have cultivated throughout your life and which makes you such a good minister. And never forget that you are only human. Your well will at times run dry, and you will at times make mistakes. In those moments, remember that I am here for you as we are here for each other. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, Mary, this is wonderful. No one does ministry in a vacuum. You know, from the moment you walked into our lives, Mary, you've been making a difference in this community. And you've become my soul sister. And I cherish it. Has made you fearless. And that's what we love about you. And also, love is contagious. And you have spread that love to everyone in this congregation. And that's why you're so special. So, as you take the role of Assistant Minister for Pastoral Care here at First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati, our congregation makes 4 promises to you. And Linnea is going to go over those. I'm going to come over here.
Tim had the goals, I had the outcomes. Mary, we promise 4 things. We, all of us here, all of us at home, we promise to support your efforts, and we realize that your ministry is a covenant between you and all of us. We promise. We promise you the resources that you will need for caretaking of souls. We promise ministerial care for you, because as Alex said, there are going to be times when your well is empty and you will need to be reinvigorated. And we promise you a place in our history, the history of First Unitarian Church's long-standing liberal religious ministry. And we entrust to you to safeguard that ministry now and in the future to come. Mary, the stole symbolizes the covenant between you and us. And we know that some very important people in your life made this stole for you, specifically for you. We are honored that you have invited us to re-bestow this sacred stole and renew your sacred ministry to us. This stole calls to mind more words from Dorothy Day. Dorothy Day was the founder of the Catholic worker movement. She was an inspiration to you and also to your deceased sister who really inspired you, Peggy Shear. These simple words that Dorothy Day said describe this day, this church, and this covenant with you. And Dorothy Day said, "The only solution is love. And that love comes with community." The only solution is love, and that love comes with community.
So our final hymn this morning is number 205, Amazing Grace, found in the gray hymnal. Please turn to it and rise as you are able.
Two things before I do. One is please come back for the congregational meeting. So get a little bite to eat and come back. The second is this stole was given to me at my ordination in Berkeley by Sister Mary Greenan and Father Nick Rihanna, two Salesian clergy in the Catholic tradition. Do you get that? A Catholic nun and Catholic priest, my dearest, dearest friends, gave me this stole. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. The three of us are going to make waves. John O'Donohue, Benacht, blessing. On the day when the weight deadens on your shoulders and you stumble, may the clay dance to balance you. And when your eyes freeze behind the gray window and the ghost of lost gets into you, may a flock of colors, indigo, red, green, and azure blue, come to awaken in you a meadow of delight. And when the canvas frays and the currach of thought and a stain of ocean blackens beneath you, may there come across the waters a path of yellow moonlight to bring you safely home. May the nourishment of the earth be yours. May the clarity of light be yours. May the fluency of the oceans be yours. May the protection of the ancestors, Ruthie, David, Steve, Peggy, Jay, Annie, be yours. And so may a slow wind work these words of love around you, an invisible cloak to mind your life. May it be so, and so it is. Amen.